Is the dream of a thriving plastic recycling industry turning into a nightmare? The alarming truth is that recycling plants are shutting down across Europe and the US, threatening to undo decades of progress. But here's where it gets controversial. Is this a sign of inevitable failure or a wake-up call for radical change? Reporting by Mary Lou Costa, a technology reporter, reveals a concerning trend. The plastic recycling industry is facing a severe crisis. The casualties are mounting with alarming speed. Biffa's Sunderland plant, a £7 million investment that opened in 2022, closed its doors in February. Enviroo, another major player, shuttered its Avonmouth plant in 2022, Skelmersdale in 2023, and has confirmed the upcoming closure of its Rochester facility this summer. These aren't isolated incidents. The problem isn't confined to the UK. Across Europe, the domino effect of plant closures is equally devastating. Veolia, a prominent name in waste management, is set to close its 2 German operations this year. In the Netherlands, 7 plastic recyclers ceased operations last year alone. And this is the part most people miss. It's not just about closures. Several companies, including Borealis, Dow, and Nestor, have scrapped their plans to build new plastic recycling plants in Europe, signaling a deep lack of confidence in the industry's future. Plastic Recyclers Europe, an industry body, estimates that these closures represent a loss of nearly 1 million tons of plastic recycling capacity since 2023. That's a staggering amount of potential pollution that will now end up in landfills or incinerators. This organization paints a bleak picture, warning that without decisive political intervention, Europe risks replacing its recycling industry with a reliance on unsustainable imports and ever-growing mountains of waste. This, they argue, would undermine both economic resilience and climate leadership. But what kind of political action is truly effective? James McLeary, managing director for Biffa's Polymers division, echoes this concern, predicting an even more challenging year ahead for the industry in both the UK and Europe. High energy and labor costs are significant factors. However, a crucial element is the economic reality that sourcing virgin and recycled plastic from Asia is currently cheaper than buying European recycled plastic. This price disparity creates a perverse incentive that undermines domestic recycling efforts. Is it simply cheaper to create new plastic than to recycle it? Plastic recycling plant closures are also impacting the U.S., driven by the low cost of virgin plastic. As SP Global reports, this situation is causing the country to fall short of its recycled content targets. The low cost of virgin plastic makes it difficult for recycled plastic to compete, even though it's often the more environmentally responsible choice. There's a big global dependence building on Asian plants, Mr. McLeary explains, leading to difficult decisions for plant operators in the UK and Europe, either run plants at a loss or shut them down entirely. Could this dependence on Asian plants be considered a form of eco-colonialism, where wealthier nations export their environmental problems? A reliance on exporting plastic waste further exacerbates the problem. According to environmental analysts at EN's report, the UK exported around 600,000 tons of plastic waste last year, a 5% increase from 2023. Loopholes in current UK legislation inadvertently incentivize waste collectors to export rather than process domestically. Meanwhile, manufacturers using plastic packaging are often more inclined to use cheaper, virgin plastic from abroad, even if it means paying a tax for it. This highlights a fundamental flaw in a system. The economic incentives are misaligned, making recycling less attractive than using virgin plastic. Ahmed Detta, CEO and founder of plastic waste recycler Enviroo, expresses frustration with the flaws and contradictions that plague the industry, disrupting the goal of creating a circular economy that keeps materials in use for as long as possible. For me, a circular economy is a win-win. Every single person in that journey has to have some benefit, and that's not working, Mr. Detta says. He points out that brands aren't fully embracing the circular economy, questioning why they should buy recycled material when it's cheaper to pay the plastic's packaging tax. He argues for unity and collaboration across the value chain. But is true unity possible when economic self-interest often trumps environmental concerns? Recoup, a UK-based plastic recycling independent authority, is so concerned that its head of policy and infrastructure, Steve Morgan, warns of the potential demise of plastic recycling as we know it, without intervention. He argues that UK regulations have inadvertently benefited foreign markets more than the UK, necessitating serious reform. Mr. Morgan highlights the emergence of fantastic new technologies, but emphasizes the need for them to be commercially viable to survive and thrive. The commercial viability long-term is just not there at the moment, he states. He expresses concern that without intervention, real change is unlikely in the next 2 to 3 years. Recoup is urging the UK government to introduce a single plastic recycling certification scheme to reduce plastic waste exports and encourage companies to use recycled packaging. Mr. Morgan remains optimistic that a UK government consultation this year will seriously consider changes to save the industry. Is a single certification scheme enough, or are more fundamental changes needed? The UK Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, states that packaging reforms are being implemented alongside £10 billion of investment in new plastic sorting and processing facilities. They also point to the deposit return scheme launching in October 2027, which will incentivize consumers to return drinks bottles and cans to collection points, creating higher quality material for recycling. The government has also convened a circular economy task force. Our collection and packaging reforms will support UK-based recycling, meaning we can reduce our dependency on exports of plastic waste, says the spokesperson. The export of waste is subject to strict controls set out in UK legislation. But will these measures be enough to reverse the current trend? Virginia Janssens, managing director at Plastics Europe, representing plastic producers, expresses concern that the plastic recycling industry is poised to flourish outside Europe. She notes that businesses will go where it's cheapest to build, and that large production plants built elsewhere are unlikely to relocate to Europe. This, she warns, would have a huge effect on the European value chain, setting it back 20 years, forcing increased incineration and landfill use. Nobody wants this, she asserts. But isn't the pursuit of profit inherently at odds with environmental sustainability? Despite the challenges, there are some bright spots. Biffa has recently acquired bottle manufacturer Esterform, which uses recycled PET. Enviroo has secured £58 million to build a new recycling facility in the northwest of England, specializing in converting PET drink bottles into recycled granulate for food packaging. Due to be operational by 2026, the plant is expected to process up to 35,000 tons of plastic annually. Mr. Detta believes specializing and focusing on the fundamentals of plastic recycling will be key to his success. Plastic Energy is successfully converting plastic waste into pyrolysis oil for food and medical-grade plastic. CEO Ian Temperton is preparing to benefit from an anticipated undersupply of recycled plastic as recycled content targets a kick in across Europe. By 2040, plastic drinks bottles must contain at least 65% recycled content. He remains focused on developing and enhancing the technology to deal with waste plastics, anticipating a significant market undersupply. Will these innovative companies be enough to turn the tide? So what's the future of plastic recycling? Can innovation, policy changes, and consumer behavior shift the economic equation and make recycling a truly viable solution? Or are we destined to drown in a sea of plastic waste? What role should governments, businesses, and individuals play in saving or reinventing the plastic recycling industry? Share your thoughts in the comments below.